If you want to avoid regain after weight loss surgery, beware of the negotiator. In today's episode of WLS Delight, we're going to define the negotiator, identify why it's often a red flag, and how to handle it. But first of all, who or what is the negotiator? The negotiator is within you. It's part of you. It's that voice in your head that tries to justify actions that will not serve you. It's that voice that finds ways to validate choices that do not align with your goals. It's like when you're out to lunch with a friend and the server brings a dessert tray to the table and your friend suggests that the two of you order one of those scrumptious desserts to share. You had told yourself that you would not eat anything with processed sugar in it today, but you hear the little voice in your head saying things like, since I'd be sharing the dessert, it's not so bad. I could just add 30 minutes to my workout today to make up for the extra calories. Or I could have dessert and then skip dinner. Or even better, I'm going to have dessert today and then I won't have dessert again for the entire month. That voice you hear that's trying to find some way to justify having dessert is, dun dun dun, the negotiator. How often do you hear that negotiator in your head? Daily, weekly, monthly? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're there, if you're resonating with this topic, be sure to give the video a like. Here's the deal. In the moment of temptation, the negotiator's suggestions sound like a really good idea, right? You're about to do something that doesn't align with a commitment you've made. So all these suggestions from the negotiator are essentially you trying to compensate in some way to minimize the damage you're about to do, or to make it feel like it's okay. But consider this. Of all those deals you've struck with the negotiator over the years, how often do you hold up your side of the bargain? I was thinking about this the other day because, let me tell you, 20 years after bariatric surgery, my negotiator is alive and well, although fortunately not as present as it used to be. But I realized that historically, if I strike a deal with a negotiator, I rarely stick to it, like maybe 5% of the time if I'm lucky. Listen, it should be a big, giant red flag anytime the negotiator pops into your head in a way that's tied to choices around right-size living, especially when it's tied to instant gratification. That's because anytime you cave to the negotiator, there are 3 underlying dangers that you face. The first danger is that you devalue your commitments. Want to know what really sucks about the negotiator? It pits you against yourself. It's you against the decision you've already made. It's you against something important that you had planned to do or achieve. In other words, anytime the negotiator gets its way, it's a lose-lose situation. The moment the negotiator convinces you to wiggle out of the decision, you go down a slippery path where you devalue your commitments. They begin to lack meaning. You begin to doubt yourself. You stop believing the words coming out of your own mouth. You subconsciously convey to yourself that you're not worth it. What's worse, you also risk establishing a pattern of breaking commitments to yourself. That's because if you give in to the negotiator one time, you're more likely to do it again. Giving in to the negotiator can easily become an unwanted habit that can get out of control. The first time the negotiator wins, it gains a little momentum. The next time it wins, that momentum doubles. Each time you give in to the negotiator, the momentum compounds until the negotiator's got so much power, it's hard to stand up to it. The good news is the opposite is true too. When you stop giving in to the negotiator, you weaken its power over you. You build confidence in yourself. You start trusting yourself to do what you say you're going to do. And in the process, you reaffirm your self-worth. Whichever route you most frequently choose becomes your habit, your normal response. Break one commitment or promise to yourself and the odds go up you'll break the next one. Stick to your commitment and you develop a pattern of following through. Which path are you going to choose? Sticking to your commitments or breaking them? The second danger the negotiator poses is self-licensing. If your inner negotiator is present, it's a sign that you're seeking justification or self-licensing. Essentially, you know you're about to do something you perceive as wrong, whether it's breaking a commitment or doing something that can negatively impact your well-being. So by negotiating, you're trying to convince yourself that you'll do something positive to balance the scales of right and wrong. subconsciously you're just going to end up feeling bad about yourself, because after you succumb, your inner critic will pop out saying things like, you're a loser, you have no self-control, you screwed up again. Plus, here's something important to know. There was a series of 3 studies published in Psychology and Health in 2019 called Justified Indulgence. They found that caloric consumption was higher by those participants who were given a justification cue versus those who were not. That illustrates that when you justify an eating choice, you're likely to consume more calories than you otherwise would have if you had just eaten the food with no strings attached. Self-licensing can influence in other ways too. Sometimes because you've done something positive, you think it's now okay to do something you perceive as negative. Not long after I had weight loss surgery, I started working out regularly. It didn't take long for me to begin engaging in self-licensing. The negotiator reared its ugly head after my workout saying, hey, you just burned all these calories, so go ahead and reward yourself with half a zucchini walnut muffin on Saturdays. But as often happens with licensing, it didn't stop there. That half a muffin became a whole muffin. Then I started rewarding myself after every single workout, often with a Tootsie Pop. I justify it thinking, hey, I just burned 350 calories, so I deserve a 60-calorie Tootsie Pop filled with nothing but sugar. Self-licensing became a runaway train. I was out of control. I'd work out more to eat more. And guess what? I started regaining weight. Have you ever done that? Used exercise or periods of food restriction as a self-license to eat? I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. The third danger is that the negotiator contributes to disordered eating. The negotiator gives food power. The mere act of negotiating implies that some foods are righteous and you deserve praise when you eat them, whereas other foods are evil and you're naughty or weak if you eat them. When you think of certain foods as something bad that you shouldn't have, what do you think happens? That's right, it's several times more tempting. We tend to covet and obsess about what we think we shouldn't have or can't have. With that type of thinking, do you realize how much power we're giving cupcakes, potato chips, and pizza? We're allowing the negotiator to define how we see ourselves. If I eat a cupcake, I must be a bad person. I must be weak. But the truth is, at the end of the day, a cupcake is just a cupcake. While eating one may not move you in the direction of your goals, it's not morally evil. And if you choose to eat one on occasion, it doesn't make you a bad person. The type of food morality tied to the negotiator can lead to a whole host of eating disorders. I know for me personally, it led to binging on and hoarding hyperpalatable foods, something I did in secret because of the shame tied to it. How about you? Have you ever experienced any type of disordered eating? If so, do you think the negotiator might have played a role? So, what should you do when the negotiator pops into your head? The goal should be to silence the negotiator. And this is something that takes time and practice. It may not go away entirely, but you can certainly reduce the frequency with which you hear it and learn to shut it down faster. Here's how. 1, avoid engaging with the negotiator. When you become aware of the negotiator's voice in your head, tell it to take a hike. Give it the silent treatment. Start singing a song to block it out. La 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 la. Whatever you've got to do, right? 2, decide. Your right-size living choices should be a simple yes or no decision, not a negotiation. And 3, stick to that decision today no matter what, because the commitments you make to yourself matter. Move on. End of discussion. Avoid the gray area. If it's something you want bad enough, plan to indulge yourself another day in the future when it's your choice, when you're in control. Never because a negotiator tempts you in the moment. As counterintuitive as it may feel, I'm going to suggest that your right-size living choices never have strings attached. Giving into the negotiator will only devalue the commitments you make to yourself and could lead to self-licensing and disordered eating. Negotiations don't give you power, it takes it away. Here's some food for thought I want to leave you with today. The only thing certain about any negotiation is that it will lead to another negotiation. Sports agent Lee Steinberg said that, and isn't that the truth? Tell me what your favorite takeaway is from today's episode in the comments below. And until next time, my friend, live with purpose, live with courage, and live with delight.